Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. Happy 2021. I know I'm a little late coming to that, but since it is a new year after all, I figured I would give you guys an update on my dart. Wait a minute.
Wait, why is it red? Where are my stripes? Was it red? Am I losing my mind? What did I eat for breakfast today? I kind of want a bagel. Wait, where am I? What am I doing? Is this my car? Make sure you're subscribed.
Alright, so I'm sure you're all very confused at this point what has changed. And yes, you're right, I have in fact changed my Crocs. I have some all-terrain Crocs and they're blue now, which is very confusing. But in all seriousness, I have a new dart, okay? I'm sure you all remember my 2014 Dodge Dart Rally, which was white and had the awesome rally stripes and the classic plasti-dipped wheels. But unfortunately, that dart has hit a deer. I was driving home from a Bible study, we hit a deer, and me and my sister were fine, but the car had to be totaled. It was all front-end damage, the headlight was broken, the AC compressor was broken, the radiator mount was cracked, and it just wasn't worth the value of the car to fix it. So instead, we took the money they gave it for us, and we bought pretty much the identical car. I had pretty high standards since that dart was so cool, but we found this. This is a 2016 Dodge Dart SXT. Okay, so as far as the dart model range goes, the lowest is the SE, then you have the SXT, then you have the Rally, the GT, and the Limited all at the top end. So I was looking for other stick shift darts because I don't want an automatic car. I'm a stick shift guy and I wanted a stick shift. So we were looking around, and for some reason they're all in North Jersey with all of the hills, and we found two cars that really piqued my interest. One was a white GT, which is the top of the line car. I mean, that is the nicest dart you can get. It has heated seats, heated steering wheel, red stitched leather, sunroof, all of the fancy stuff. Or this, which is the SXT, which is a model below the Rally, and we'll go into some of this stuff. But basically the GT was in bad shape. It had, it looked like it had been in a front-end accident. The bumper was coming apart. It just was in really bad shape, and it also had 100,000 miles. So we found this red SXT, and it is in mint shape. I mean, I'm sure you saw in some of the pan shots, this car is beautiful. The paint is perfect. It is only 50,000 miles, and it's the 2016, which means it is the last year of the Dodge Dart. So this is like a piece of history right here. Unless, Dodge, if you make the Dart again, you better. I know people. So I'm sure you're wondering, what are some of the differences between the Rally and SXT? Well, one of which is this body-colored front piece here. Now, if you watch my Dart video, which you definitely should, that had a black out front, and I talked about how cool that looked and how I didn't like the body-colored one. However, in this particularly nice color, this is red line red, by the way, and it is the reddest red you could ever imagine. It actually looks pretty good. It's growing on me. This car also comes equipped with what I think is a chrome package. You can see it around the grille. The headlights also have silver in them rather than blacked out headlights. And on the side here, we also get chrome door handles, which is very interesting. I've never seen a new car like this having chrome door handles, but it's a thing. It also kind of ties in with our silver wheels you get. These are 16-inch wheels since this is the lower version. As I said, the Rally came with 17-inch wheels, though, a little secret, I have 18-inch GT black wheels that I will be putting on this. Stay tuned for an update video coming soon. If you come along back to this extremely red car, you can see, of course, the classic Dodge racetrack taillights. Super neat. Now, you probably noticed there is no reverse camera, and I'll get into that as we move into the interior, but, downside, you don't get a reverse camera, but it does look better, I think, without that thing tacked on there. And one of my other concerns with getting a red car is that it would kind of blend in with this taillight, and it wouldn't look so distinctive. However, Dodge has thought of that, and if you look closely, there's actually black trim around the taillight to make it a little more distinctive. And I really like that. That makes it just pop that much more and go along with the red, and it really matches. We still have our temporary plates on here. We don't have anything on the front yet. Unfortunately, they did already screw into the front bumper, and I wanted to get one that wasn't screwed into the front bumper and you could like fold down and stuff. Gracie has it. I'm kind of jealous. But it is screwed in, so we're going to have to put a plate on there anyway. Now, while we're talking about the differences between the SXT and Rally, we might as well talk about the engine. All right, so under here, this is slightly different. Now, the Dodge Dart was available with 3 different engines, okay? You could get the 1.4 turbo, which, judging by information from my local mechanic, is a horrible engine, and it's really slow, and I shouldn't get it. That is what the very base model gets, the 1.4 turbo. This is a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine. The Dart I had and the higher level Darts have a 2.4 liter, and that had multi-air, okay, which means basically you only have one camshaft, and then the other valves are controlled by computers, and eventually it starts to sound really weird and consume oil like gasoline. However, this, I've been told by a reliable source, is a very reliable engine. It's not as complex, it doesn't have any of that, and it's just 2 camshafts with normal valves controlling, stuff. So I was a little concerned that this car had the 2-liter engine and not the 2.4, since it might be a little slower and it might be, a little bit of a downgrade. However, after driving it for the first time we test drove it, it feels just about the same to me. There is hardly a difference, and we have yet to put on my signature Mopar cold air intake. So that will be coming soon. Again, stay tuned for a possible update. But with that, this makes 160 horsepower versus the 2.4's 180. So we're only down 20 horsepower. Plus, remember, this is a smaller engine, so technically it should be lighter, right? So you might have a better power-to-weight ratio. Though I did do the math. This engine makes more power per liter than the 2.4. So this is actually more power dense by 5 horsepower, which is very important. But otherwise, to me, it sounds almost the same. It still has a really good sound to it. It's still very responsive like the 2.4, since it is a naturally aspirated engine, and it drives just as good as the other Dart. So with all of that said, let's move right into the interior. All right, so you join me in the, of course, very luxurious back of the Dodge Dart. And something I've always loved about these cars is the space you get in the back seat. Like, these seats are where I would sit, which is very reclined, and I have tons of legroom. Like, I can sit very comfortably back here. And of course, headroom is no problem, though I'll have to ask Brooksy since he's a lot taller than me. But he has been in road trips in the Rally and had no problem sitting in the back seat for over 3 hours. We are missing a few things back here since this is the SXT rather than the Rally. The main one is we don't have any cup holders or the trunk pass-through here, which I would stick my head through. But unfortunately, it's not there. Kind of a weird thing for them to take away, but don't have it. These seats do still fold down, which is great. You can put bigger stuff in there. And of course, I never really used the pass-through, though it was kind of cool to have. But while we're back here, we still do have this shelf for things. I still don't know what you could put in there, but it is there in case you want to put your hand in there or something. But I do like in this car, since this is a red car, we don't have the white interior. We rather have this strange looking, I don't even know what to call it, like mesh netted thing. I actually quite like how it looks. It's different, and this car has 50,000 miles, so it is still kind of new, but the seats are still looking great, and it looks like we're already getting cat hair in here. But it does have the cloth seats. I test drove the GT with the leather seats, and I just still don't like them. I'm a cloth seat guy, which is, I think, kind of weird, but I don't like leather seats. They're cold and they're slippery. But that mesh is kind of carried on. If you look in the door panel, we also have that where the white was on my old car. We now have that mesh material, which is, it's kind of a cool look. I like it. It doesn't look cheap. It looks kind of not cheap. I don't know. But we also have the leather on the door handle, which is really nice. And of course, power windows that would work if I had the car on. But while we're back here, neat touch on this car, we actually have a light colored headliner. On my old Dart, it was all black, but on this one, it's all light colored, which is pretty cool. And it kind of matches with the sort of light colored exterior stuff like the chrome door handles and the light colored wheels. You have this light colored roof. Something to note, both rear speakers are really bad and crackly. But the good thing is you can't hear them from the front seat, so it doesn't matter. With that said, let's move up front. All right, so moving up front, we of course have a lot more to talk about. One of which is this steering wheel. So I am like 85% sure that I could not do this on my old Dart. But this steering wheel is, of course, adjustable, but also telescopic. Like, I am fairly sure that was not a thing on my old Dart, but I got into test drive it, and I'm like, it's so close to me. And I was able to push it in, and I'm like, that's just crazy. But moving up front, I think the biggest thing you can tell is we no longer have the main screen in here. Yeah, so that is probably the biggest downset you have in the SXT versus the Rally and the higher models, is you don't get the main screen. Now, this actually may have turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Okay, if you watched my previous car rant, I talk about why knobs and buttons are so much better than screens, and here I am putting it into practice. But I agree, the screen looks a lot better. It looks a lot more high quality, and it does a lot more things. However, the biggest benefit of not having the screen is having the climate controls all in knobs and buttons. Okay, I've owned this car for, geez, I don't even know, like 3 or 4 days, and I love this so much. Before, you had to hit a button to go into the screen. You had a stupid slider on the screen that never worked, or you had to hold down a button to increase temperature and a button to decrease temperature, and it was bad. I didn't like it. In this, oh, I want it cold? It's cold. Oh, I want it hot? It's hot. I want more speed? I want to change the direction? It's right there, and it's just the best. I wish all cars had this. This is all you need. Fan speed, temperature, air direction. That's it. Don't give me anything else. And I have been loving that. Now, we still have the center console connection USB, which is pretty great, so I can just hide it in here. But behold my iPod Nano. I have had this for a very long time, and in the 3 cars I have owned, my Focus Titanium, my Dart Rally, and now this Dart SXT, this has survived through all of them, and it will continue to do so, okay? So all I do is plug that guy in, I leave it in, I turn on the car, and it plays music, and that's really all I want. Some of the downsides, I can no longer connect my phone through Bluetooth to it. However, the Uconnect system that did that in the other Dart was very interesting, and it didn't work a lot of the time, and I never really used it unless it was for calls, which is something I'm missing. And as I mentioned before, we no longer have a backup camera, though we got mirrors, we're fine. But speaking on this trend of using more analog buttons, we do have more buttons on the steering wheel, so we still have a voice recognition system, which I never used in the other Dart, and I haven't tried it out yet. It would be interesting to see how that works with this radio, but it's there. We also have a phone button. How do I use a phone button? I have not tried that out, and I didn't even realize I had that until now, so I will be checking on that. All right, so I turn on the accessories just to show you guys some stuff around here. So as you can see, there is still a little screen, and I'll show you more as we're driving with everything hooked up. But it does show you the time, and you can show the artist and the album and the song title and all of that. The only annoyance I have with this is that you have to go through a 3-step process to turn shuffle on, because who doesn't listen to songs in shuffle? But every time you turn the car off and on, it defaults back to non-shuffle. So I have to do that every time to turn the car on. It's not really a big deal, but it would be nice if they just had like a shuffle button, or if it just stayed on shuffle when I turned the car off. However, the stereo sounds fine up here. As I said, you can't hear the crackling. All right, so our first screen, this is the default screen. I just leave it on. You can see we have the temperature and the mileage, which, again, only 51,000 miles. That's awesome. But scrolling through the screens, we have a speedometer in digital, in case you don't feel like reading a real gauge, Gracie. But we also have our trip odometer and our range to empty and our average MPG, which is something I wanted to touch on. This car is getting 28.3, and that is after I drove rather quickly. This is not me driving conservatively, and this is no highway mileage. I'm getting 28.3. In the 2.4 liter Dart Rally, I was getting about 25, high 24, low 25. This is getting way better gas mileage. And even though Alan told me, I believe EPA rated, it's about the same, in real life, this appears to get way better gas mileage, which is a plus of the smaller engine. We also have our current MPG, which is pretty cool. It'll scroll across the line and show you what you're currently getting. And we have stored messages. I have absolutely no idea what messages this would be storing. Maybe it's like air pressure in the tires. I have no idea. There are no messages stored, which I guess is good, but I have never seen this screen before and I have no idea what it does. And that takes us right back to we have oil life and right back to normal screen. So something interesting there. All right, so that's the basics of the interior. Let's take it for a drive. Alright, so driving the 2016 Dodge Dart SXT. Now, something I've told everyone, since we have the SXT badge on there, some people might see it and think it says SRT, which I have done before on like Charger SXTs and stuff. But unfortunately, they never made a Dart SRT4, which they should have, but apparently sales weren't good enough. Kind of sucks. But anyway, driving this car. Now, I mentioned some of the stuff that this car doesn't get. You know, it lacks a lot of features. It doesn't have the backup camera. It doesn't have the screen. And I think the biggest one it doesn't have is this cool red light around here. That doesn't light up anymore. That is just red. It doesn't light up at night, which was such a cool feature. But I will be putting some red footlight lights in here eventually. We also have a little bit, you know, low quality materials, like the steering wheel is made of something else, not leather. I honestly don't know what it is. And we have plastic up here, but we still do get leather on the door handles and the center console. But mainly why I went to buy another Dart is because of the driving experience. I loved driving the Rally, and for the few days I've had this car, I have absolutely loved driving this as well. Even with the slightly smaller engine, to me it still sounds really good, and it'll sound even better once we get the cold air on it. But just, it's a stick shift, and driving this car is so much fun. You know, it handles incredibly well, and we will put it through its paces coming up to our twisty roads. But it handles so well. It sounds great. The engine is still super responsive, naturally aspirated, you know, high revving engine. This does actually have a higher red line than the 2.4. It goes to 65 instead of 62, I think, despite having the same tachometer. Alan has told me it does in fact rev higher, which is pretty neat. And also fitting because this is Redline red. And pushing it like this, you don't really notice the smaller engine. It sounds very similar. I think it is a little higher maybe, but I mean, you can't really tell. And when it's cold out, you still do get some of the pops, though they are really subtle. But it's just so much fun to drive, especially being a 6-speed manual. Now, I had a short throw shifter put into the Dart Rally I had before. That was mainly because if you heard about the whole shifter ball fiasco I had, where it was chipping, and this was actually doing the same thing. It chips right where your fingers go, and that was giving me paper cuts. So I tried to take it off and broke the actual nut that the ball goes on, so I just was left with a stump. So then I got some cheap aftermarket thing, and that broke off too while I was at school. So I had to drive home with just the bottom of a shifter, which was interesting. Then later on, since I needed a whole new shifter assembly, I figured, well, we might as well just get a short throw, which I did. It was 30% smaller throw. It was a real stubby little shifter, and it was great. However, now that I'm back to the normal shifter, the short throw is great, but if I don't have to, I'm not going to put a short throw in this one. The normal shifter works really well, and it's not quite as notchy as the short throw was. If you watched the Carlos driving stick shift video on the Dart, me and Alan talk about it a little bit, but he had to do some crazy jury rigging with zip ties to get the reverse cable to work. It was very interesting. And as a result, it kind of was hard to get into second gear, and it would pinch your fingers sometimes. This is the original stock shifter, though I kept the shifter ball from my other Dart since it was peeling too. And it works great. It's a really good shifter, and I'm going to keep it in there. So, now let's transition to the handling course. It's such a fun car to throw around. Here we go. It's really great, and that's where I think the Dart thrives, is how it handles. You feel like you have total control the whole time. Now granted, you're not going extremely fast, but you can push it, and you can kind of feel where it's at, and it's really stable and always under control, which is why I do like front-wheel drive cars. You know, you always feel like you're in control. You can push it and not feel like you're gonna crash in an instant. It's really fun to just to toss around. I've described it as tossable to people because it is. And oddly, because this is the SXT, you're missing stuff like the leather seats and the big screen and the screen over here, and it almost makes it feel like it's a stripped out car, and it makes you even want to throw it around more, whereas the GT might, you're like, oh, this is a nice car, and you want to be careful and dainty with it and all that. Whereas this car, you know, you can push it and not feel bad, and the car takes it, and it's a car that makes you want to drive fast. You know, like there are cars I've driven like our GMC that I talked about in our other car review video. It's not a car that makes you want to go fast. That's a car that makes you want to drive normally. Whereas this car, with the manual, with the engine note, and just the feel of the car, it makes you want to push it and floor it and take it up to redline and all that, which is really cool. And it's enjoyable, and it's one of the reasons I went with another Dart. It's just an awesome car, and I couldn't think of another car at this price that would be as much fun. I mean, what 2016 affordable car has a manual and is this much fun to drive? And it does help as well that Alan is our local Dodge mechanic and he knows this car inside out. We were looking, or I was looking at Fiesta STs, but those were just a little bit out of my price point. And when you're driving it like this, with the stick shift, you don't notice things like, oh, I'm missing the big fancy touchscreen. Or even that I'm missing 0.4 liters. You just have fun with it. And because it's not, extremely fast, 160 horsepower in a relatively heavy car, you can push it as hard as you want and not be going extremely fast. So like, I can push it all the way to third gear, speed shifting, redline in my redline red car, and not be going, 120 and then I have to go to prison. This is just, it's such a good all-around car. It looks great, especially in this color. This is such a bright red, and you can see it from like our windows and stuff, and it's like, it's so bright. And I can't wait to get the larger black wheels on it. It's gonna give it such a better stance, and that's gonna, I think, really help the looks. But already, it looks really good, even with the strange chrome door handles. But it's a great looking car. It's affordable. It's fun to drive. I wouldn't call it fast, but it's fun. It's responsive. It doesn't feel like you're torturing the car by driving fast. You can fit a lot of people in it. It gets great gas mileage. I mean, it's just a really good all-around car. And I would recommend a Dart manual to anyone who's looking for one. I have not driven it automatic, but as I said in my other video, this car with an automatic just would be so boring. The stick shift makes this car. Getting a little hot in here. Let me just turn my knob here to lower the heat. Oh, wasn't that easy? I know screens look nice, but buttons are just so much better. They really are. Clutch is good. I mentioned in the earlier video that this clutch is a little weird, and this has the same clutch. It's the same feeling. Though I do think it's actually a little easier to be smoother with the shifts in this car. I don't know if that's just how the engine is. It's probably because I have the normal shifter back in it. The clutch it's fine once you get used to it, as with any clutch. Alright, so that concludes our video on my brand new 2016 Dodge Dart SXT. This may be missing a few of the really nice features that came with the Rally. However, it still has that just awesomeness of the Dart. The driving experience, all of the great things that come with it, and it is a truly awesome color. What do you guys think? Some stripes might be coming in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Guys, I can do it. I know I can. And if you come around the side here, you can see the very unusual feature known as chrome door handles. I have never seen chrome handles on a car before.